From folklore and fairies
to monsters and mysteries, it came from the Maritimes. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, my co-host, Chelsea.
He thrusts his fists against the posts and still insists he sees the ghosts. My co-host, Evan.
Howdy, everyone, and welcome to It Came From The Maritimes, an Atlantic Canada folklore podcast. Today's topic is the Battle of the Frightening Frigates, the ghost ships of the HMS Shannon and the USS Chesapeake at Point Pleasant Park. As a warning, this episode discusses death, warfare, and gore.
Now, I would like it on the record just before we start recording that back in February when Evan first mentioned he wanted to cover this topic, he told me about a plaque regarding this event in Point Pleasant Park, and I decided to walk to the plaque to take a photo because I don't make it to Halifax often. But it was very icy and I got lost in Point Pleasant Park and I ended up wandering around for an hour. So when I post the photo of this plaque to Instagram, there better be a lot of likes on it.
Please, guys.
Make it worthwhile.
Yeah. It does get icy and it's cold there. I've gone out bird watching there a couple of times in the winter and it's rough.
Oh yeah, it was frosty. Worth it though.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Oh, very welcome.
So this all begins with the War of 1812. Obviously, much larger issue as a whole, but during that war, prior to the events of this particular ship-to-ship combat I'm talking about, which happened in June 1st, 1813, there had been no times where a British frigate had won in ship-to-ship combat during the war against any of the Americans, so very important. Captain Philip Broke of the HMS Shannon was determined to change that streak. He was waiting outside of Boston Harbour and watching the USS Chesapeake from his crow's nest. A day prior, he had released a prisoner of war who was to deliver a letter to Captain Lawrence of the Chesapeake. This letter sent an invitation to battle, one-on-one ship combat, and as motivation sent details of his crew, which was 330 men, compared to the Chesapeake's 440, and that his boat had 52 cannons versus the unknown amount on the Chesapeake. He had heard that Captain Lawrence was an aggressive captain and a man of honor who he was certain would take his challenge. Honestly, Captain Broke there a little bit cocky.
He is. This is setting a very tense scene.
Yeah, he's there you have over 100 men more than me on your boat, but we can take you.
Yeah, I can mess you up. I can do this.
Exactly. Now, as he waited and watched, Captain Broke considered the training he had been conducting with his crew, ensuring that they were one of the, if not the most, prepared crews in the Atlantic. He ran constant drills, and while other boats were preserving gunpowder, as there was a shortage during the war, he ensured to fire real shots, so his crew would be prepared to see how the shots fired and the recoil that came with it.
Right, he was scrappy, he was ready to throw down.
Yeah, that's the thing. He continued to watch the Chesapeake in the harbour, and the sails remained furled until late afternoon. When they finally unfurled, he knew that the crew of the Shannon had approximately 2 hours to prepare, and he descended from the crow's nest to give them a speech. In this speech, he talked about how the Americans had been mocking the British Navy in the newspapers, and that they thought the battle would be easy. This was their chance to prove that not only they, but their country was greater than they believed. The men were ready, and had plenty to prove, so they waited as the Chesapeake approached. This is where the story diverges depending on the version of events you believe. One version of the story states that the prisoner of war, who was released to deliver the message, was never actually able to deliver the message. As a released prisoner of war, he got too tied up in bureaucracy as the American army tried to get as many details as they could from him, and also just make sure he was okay after being a prisoner of war. As such, the Chesapeake and their crew did not know of the challenge and were somewhat blindsided by the attack. In another version of the story, Captain Lawrence did receive the letter and was letting the men of the Shannon wait outside the harbour, allowing themselves to stress and tire during a long day in the elements, and that the decision to leave later in the day was a strategic choice. How you see these events taking place may change how you see the events of the battle, and maybe make some opinions on how honorable the warfare actually was.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy.
Did they know about it? Did they not? Hard to say. Now, the Chesapeake approached the Shannon, and Captain Broke took no time instructing his crew to attack. The Shannon came within a stone's throw of the opposing frigate, and quickly fired into the side, dispatching many of the cannons on the Chesapeake and preventing them from returning fire. The Chesapeake took considerable early damage and collided with the Shannon. In the initial chaos, Captain Lawrence of the Chesapeake was gravely wounded, and his first lieutenant took him below deck to the boat's surgeon, which left the boat in chaos without leadership. As he was on the surgeon's table, Captain Lawrence yelled at his crew, "Don't give up the ship." So obviously, even when he was very injured, still cared a lot about this. During this time, though, the crew of the Shannon connected the boats and put a gangplank across, allowing Captain Broke to lead a group of over 30 men with their swords, knives, axes, and guns. During this time, muskets were being fired between the soldiers on opposing ships, and the boarding party that went from the Shannon with Captain Broke had to dodge shots from their own crew, though it is said that some of the British deaths, including the first lieutenant from the Shannon, were caused by friendly fire.
This is wild.
I know. Captain Broke and his crew seem to have mostly taken over the Chesapeake when a couple of American soldiers managed to overtake him, leaving him unconscious with a severe head wound, which meant that neither of the boats had captains who were conscious by the end of the battle. So it was all very chaotic.
Oh my gosh, is it ever?
Yeah, but in the end, despite the wishes of Captain Lawrence, the Chesapeake was captured, with 70 of the crew killed and 100 wounded, compared to 23 of the crew killed and 56 wounded from the Shannon. Captain Lawrence of the Chesapeake died soon after the injuries, while Captain Broke made a full recovery, though it was Lieutenant Provo Willis who captained the ship back to harbour. And I believe if you look around Halifax, that there's actually a street named Provo Willis Street or something like that.
Interesting. I'll need to keep an eye open for it.
It was calculated that the Shannon took 362 cannon shots during this short battle, which lasted less than 15 minutes. And that is one of the bloodiest naval battles of the War of 1812. Not even to the ghosts yet, but a lot going on here.
Oh my gosh. There certainly is. And yeah, like you said, just like a very chaotic energy.
Yeah, and it's like, you can read some of the stories because for some reason, I think it's just because, honestly, there's a lot of history and warfare nerds out there. But they're keeping track of these things, and you can get like pretty in-depth details, though depending on where you read it, some of the story does change.
We got all add our own little twists.
I mean, we're a folklore podcast, so we can't exactly judge. A couple days later, on June 6th, 1813, the ship sailed into Halifax Harbour. It was a Sunday, and people from St. Paul's Anglican Church cut their service short to welcome the soldiers back. Some even took their boats out to welcome the frigates into the harbour.
Is that the very church that was affected by the Halifax explosion?
I believe so.
Yeah, with the mystery window.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh my goodness, the twists and turns we take in Halifax folklore.
Maybe look that up to be sure. I get a little mixed up on some of these. Good. As people are taking their boats out, they docked to the Shannon and the Chesapeake, and locals were gathering in the harbour and came aboard to help them transport the wounded British soldiers and the American prisoners of war off of the boat. They expected to find the soldiers triumphant as the first British naval champions of the war, but instead found the boats in condition that was described as looking like a slaughterhouse. The decks, but in particular those of the Chesapeake, looked like they were painted red due to the amount of blood on them. As people were removed from the Chesapeake, they found splinters of wood from the cannon fire, which pinned pieces of flesh and hair into the walls. Yeah. And it was said that if you looked between the floorboards on the deck, you could see fingers that had rolled into crevices.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was
gruesome.
That's the thing, like, all of the accounts, and this is me, like, being a bit sparing on some of the gore here.
That's it. Evan doesn't lean into the gruesome stuff too often, so I can only imagine.
Like, you can find some pretty, like, in-depth accounts, and it is like, yeah, people were not in good condition after that.
Oh my gosh. And to think this happened, like, so close to home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was, the battle took place down in Boston area, but we brought it back home. No one was flicking those fingers overboard. They were just leaving them.
That's it, just to add to Halifax's haunted history.
Exactly. Now, there's quite a bit of legacy to this battle. The crew of the Chesapeake were taken to Melville Prison, which is now the area of the Armadale Yacht Club, and the dead were buried on the nearby Dead Man's Island. Captain Lawrence was originally buried in the old burying ground, but was later exhumed and sent to the States to be buried there. After the battle, the HMS Shannon was renamed the HMS St. Lawrence and was not used for battle anymore, but used for other purposes until eventually being dismantled in 1859. The USS Chesapeake was repaired and used by the Royal Navy until 1820, when it was dismantled and the wood was sold to John Pryor in Wickham, England, where the ship was taken apart and used to build a mill, and that mill was in operation until 1976. And some of the owners of the mill would let people pry bullets that they found out of the wood to take home as a souvenir.
Okay, I feel like that's a surefire way to build a haunted mill using wood from like that murder ship.
That's the thing. I did take a quick look and I didn't find any information about that mill. It seems like after it shut down as a mill, it just is more of like a crafter market now. But yeah.
Such a joyous turn for the ship.
Oh, I know. But yeah, and then some of the pieces of the lumber have been sent back to the US to display in military installations. And you can see pieces of both boats, such as the bell from the Shannon, on display at the Maritime Museum in Halifax. There are also cannons from both ships on display at Province House in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And additionally, there's a memorial to the battle at Point Pleasant Park, as previously mentioned, and also another at the Royal Naval Burying Ground by the CFB Stadacona on Gottingen Street. But for that one, you might need special permission to get in there. So
probably
don't just go roaming into military properties. They probably will not be the nicest to you if you're not allowed.
I'm going to give people a pro tip if they are in Point Pleasant Park and they want to seek out the memorial to the battle. It's along I believe it's called the Sailors Memorial Way. So it's the long stretch that follows the water near the Black Rock Beach, near the main parking lot for Point Pleasant Park towards the harbour. But it's actually, so if you're walking along, you'll see a plaque looking out towards the water right before there's a little bit of a hilly section where people often let their dogs run. But you need to walk around the plaque so your back is to the water to actually read the memorial.
Sorry, I think that might have been what caused some of the confusion when I sent you.
Hey, I got like 20,000 steps that day. I got my workout in for the week. It's all good.
Thank you. Glad to hear it. Now, you've listened to me say all this stuff, and you're probably thinking, Evan, where's the ghosts?
I was just about to ask.
And now there's some variations on the story of how the ghosts come in. One says that on nights with a thick fog, if you look out from Point Pleasant Park, you can see two ghostly boats entering the harbour. Some say that they appear as they did after the battle, with blood dripping off of them into the water, but with no crew in sight. Others say that you can see the ghosts of the sailors who died on both of the ships, warily sailing the boats into the harbour, injuries from the battle very much on display. While most who see the ships describe them as bloody, they are usually acting fairly peacefully, perhaps sailing to shore in hopes that they can find rest with their buried bodies. It is said that on nights with a full moon, it is different. On those nights, if you look towards McNabb's Island from Point Pleasant Park, you will see only the Chesapeake. On those nights, it is believed to be captained by none other than Captain Lawrence. It is said that he is searching for the Shannon, hoping to take revenge against those who took his ship and his life. While those who sailed on the Shannon are long dead, it is said that if you are a descendant of one of the sailors aboard the Shannon, you may want to watch out. Captain Lawrence has learned from last time he was at the helm. He has his cannons ready, and the ghost ship Chesapeake may be the very last thing you see.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, so you better watch out there. Don't go there on nights with a full moon, because the Chesapeake's out on the hunt.
Oh, I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out the next time I'm at Point Pleasant Park, as much as I can't say I've been there at night ever.
I was about to say, maybe like after Shakespeare by the Sea.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to end off with, this is just a short quiz here, but it's a bit of a ghost ship quiz.
Ooh, bring it on.
This first one, you might have heard of, or maybe not. It's a French-Canadian legend, but it also has, I've heard there's some Acadian variation, so I'm going to be on the lookout for this. What type of boat is the French-Canadian legend of the Chasse Galerie?
Ooh, I don't know.
So it's actually a birch bark canoe.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so it said back in the day of some of the earlier French settlers around, there was a man who loved hunting so much that he was given a kind of punishment where he now flies around the sky in a birch bark canoe, avoiding galloping horses and howling wolves that are now hunting him.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so kind of a weird cosmic punishment thing, but yeah.
Ooh, I hope you do find the Acadian version. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah. What famous glowing ghost ship is said to never be able to make port, doomed to sail forever?
The Flying Dutchman?
Flying Dutchman. I mean, obviously, we've got a SpongeBob fan over here.
I mean, I did watch a lot of SpongeBob back in the 90s.
Or was it Pirates of the Caribbean?
True.
Okay.
Probably both.
True. Now, where in Canada did the SS Bannockburn disappear, whereas now considered to be the Canadian version of the Flying Dutchman for that area?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I should.
No, so this one, and not quite where I would expect, but in Lake Superior, which isn't exactly where you expect a military ship to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of shipwreck and ghost ship stories from that area.
Yeah, and this was one, like, honestly, some of these I didn't necessarily know if you would know them, but more I just found them interesting.
I find them interesting too.
But yeah, apparently on November 21st, 1902, the ship disappeared and was never found again, only a life preserver from it.
Oh my goodness. That's an idea for when we start branching into more like across Canada folklore for our Patreon.
I mean, yeah, once we move a little west.
Yes.
But yeah, so just some interesting things there. Hope you all learned something at home. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of It Came From The Maritimes. You can find us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at It Came From The Maritimes, on Blue Sky at ICFT Maritimes, and if you have any Atlantic Canada folklore you would like to see covered in a future episode, or any spooky encounters of your own, email us at itcamefromthemaritimes@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon, so check us out if you want some bonus content. If you enjoy our podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. It helps people find us. At the end of each episode, we like to end with a little folklore tip. Chelsea, would you mind sharing the folklore tip for this episode?
I would love to. We have a seafaring one for you today. You shouldn't sweep a vessel after 6 p.m. or you'll have bad luck.
This is what I tell my wife to get out of cleaning at night.
Captain Evan does not sweep after 6 p.m.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.